and the global community has been the common. The question before us is, the Pacific is an ocean of peace, is rooted in the noble value of territorial integrity and political independence, of our commitment to peace and unity. That is the lifelong integral heart It is my honor to announce that the leaders of the meeting held at the Pacific Island Leaders Meeting under the able challenged Prime Minister John Manele on Thursday. The Pacific leaders and claimed the right to peace. Deep within our faith in God that finds its own expression in our own phrase coined by Fiji's first Prime Minister, the late Ratu in 1970, to describe the calm independence by Pacific Island states. Quiet leadership and reconciliation. Of the UN Charter is entitled the Pacific Settlement. This concept, therefore, theme, better together, 80 years and more. If you must be better together, peace is the absence of peace. Peace is the starting point. It is the Pacific knows the value of peace, of its absence. Our ocean is the 2 world wars and the testing ground are still felt and seen today. Seen as a platform that spurs on the evolution and prosperity. Much has been said in Beijing today. I urge and pray for conflicts started and by whom. What is the motive that those that started these wars? In our prescription for a solution on fairness, Madam President, its right to peaceful existence, no other peaceful existence, we collectively have a responsibility. Short is hypocrisy on our part. Years demands of us to be truthful, that our aim must be for the dignity of peoples with truth, doing to others as we want others. Sustained peace is to be part of the new. Falling short of this might be a Excellencies, nor by any actor alone. Progression, courage, and a strong will. Yet the cost of its absence is higher. Charter, we must tackle the root causes of instability, their consequences. This must start and acceptance, however difficult this might be. In our pursuit for peace, we must pursue the where I was a peacekeeper. This is underlined done since World War II, and especially during the recent our diplomatic engagements are informed under the Ocean of Peace. Fiji sees its responsibility on behalf of the Pacific region, a responsibility under our foreign policy priority with our Pacific members. We know parity. Fiji's primary focus is intention is directed at poverty alleviation or is to open markets for our produce. States and sustains the dignity of nations. Are integral to attaining the human rights and prosperity for our people mean addressing expanded high on the list. Fiji, like other small islands, proportionate climate threats with negligible fraction must foot the bill. The group has been responsible for 80%. They must lead the charge, keeping with the principle respective capabilities in light of different national circumstances. I hope that the world will push harder Fiji stands strongly in support of Australia's of the challenge and developed countries meeting their adaptation factors who wreck our planet. The profits and subsidies, while every day from from rising insurance premiums to insist on a shift from fossil fuel subsidies and energy transition by putting a price on carbon. Implement innovative sources of financing in fossil fuel extraction through legally binding CJ advisory opinion on climate change on July 2025 affirms this. Climate change damage must bear the full meters above mean sea level. It is grossly unfair. Recovery forced these countries to take on debts they did not create. As signatories, we are contributing our fair share towards the global effort. Development. Under our family priority, Fiji stands for some of our smaller Pacific Island communities are the international community is faltering in its low-lying Pacific states expect looking at ways to host these island communities if it is not people that are forced to leave their homes is fundamental. Today they are merely referred to as displaced people. Is communally owned, those that are being displaced will be stripping them further of their dignity. The reality of sovereignty within sovereignty in all forces are critical. This is complex, sensitive. We have no margin for error as we are dealing with real existing stresses. The ocean itself. Fiji depends on the health use and manage our ocean resources and protect endangered species. Fiji's ratification and deliberate. We need to safeguard our ocean resources in niche. A much-needed shift is also required. Exploited beyond sustainable levels in our economic subsidies is a well-known driver of overfishing. Actively addressing IUU fishing, but also deforestation as our contribution to addressing this emerging urgent goal that our global community can is the key. The convening of the fourth financing for Sevilla Compromise lays an important milestone. The existing financing architecture system sieves through complex processes and lengthy approvals daily the ravages of climate change. Reform gap that is now $4 trillion. Funding, access modalities, simplified procedures, per capita are highest for the island nations. All these are mapped out in it is critical that Abbas is expedited framework. Your Excellencies, Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, in determining development support eligibility. Relevance to overcoming the institutional blind and structural vulnerabilities. MVI needs by incorporating factors such as structural constraints that traditional income-based measurements the implementation of MVI is a matter of development. Recognize our inherent vulnerabilities to income levels. We call upon the international community MVI as this tool is essential leading income classifications that mask our true as we mark the UN's 80th anniversary and remains an indispensable partner for development. The specialized support that only the UN system in a strong UN presence and operational effectiveness. On our part, Fiji is finalizing arrangements for a purpose-built for UN operations in Fiji. Pursuing constitutional reform. A recent for a review of our Constitution. This process is reflected in a revised constitutional framework that our approach prioritizes foundations necessary for sustainable democracy. Periods of instability, with the need for healing and progress to provide a platform for all voices to be heard. This Commission represents our commitment to confront opportunities and building the foundation for a more we remain committed to international peace, stability, and community. We congratulate those countries that have successfully trodden the Fiji is also challenged by trafficking has exploited our vast maritime domain. This crisis threatens our national security our limited capacities. Our approach must be holistic, community-based recovery programs, and trauma-informed care. Fiji looks forward to working with partners to addressing trafficking, routes, enforcement, healing and rehabilitation of affected individuals, of issues confronting Fiji following 16 years of and the responsibilities associated with being the regional hub. Managing the security front was needed. Fiji launched a strategy in June of this year. This came at and National Vision document. The strategy national security interests in an increasingly complex embraces the tenet of regionalism in the 20 promotes prosperity, human rights, and additionally, Fiji confronts a non-communicable disease pandemic in years. Our response strategy aligns with the right lifestyle choices, accessible and quality, fostering public and private partnership to leverage innovation from NCDs by 1/3 by 2030 for national growth and resilience. We need all hands on deck. Fiji needs of approximately 300,000 Fijians worldwide. Dollars in 2024. Optimizing their engagement as partners in national development. These and networks are bridges and catalysts for growth. The Second World Summit for Social Development to be held in Doha to address pressing social challenges that disproportionately. The summit is an opportunity to renew our collective at the heart of our development efforts. Excellencies, on all member states, on all of us, which is the foundation of the United Nations. Compromised on truth, love, faith, and if we lose our principles, peace on earth, wisdom is in not having to keep paying was the United Nations. We must act with urgency. History demands. Our shared humanity. In those values, you will find Fiji.
I wish to thank the Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Civil Service. Now the Assembly will hear an address of his. I request protocol to escort His Excellency
distinguished delegates. I am indeed at this August Assembly as the Prime Minister of Tuvalu. Greetings and best wishes of the people, and extend my sincere congratulations to Excellency on their election as President of the 80th. I assure President Bayabok. Allow me also, Mr. President, to express to the outgoing President, His Excellency Philemon Yang, exemplary leadership over the past year. We also express Tuvalu's heart entire United Nations family for this historic of existence. For 8 decades, the United States, steadfast pillar of peace, a champion of multilateral of hope for humanity. The UN's enduring of the transformative power of unity, made possible when nations join forces and unity of purpose. Tuvalu in its membership of the United Nations, especially its 25th anniversary of UN membership. President, the occasion of the 80th anniversary should and must be a moment of reflection and true and faithful to the objective of its foundational. Despite our historic achievement, we continue to witness violations and development setbacks of the United Nations Charter, and serve as a stark and sustainable development remain incomplete. That is why, Mr. President, Tuvalu to make the UN more effective and impactful. Mr. President, I commend and applaud the selection of for peace, development, and human rights. The theme, the persistent challenges to global peace and of better together, underscore the power of unity. Nations, because true progress and goals are adequately addressed. The hold little value if the poor and the most vulnerable. I therefore commend the President's milestone session. Mr. President, security threats to Tuvalu, and they continue to be the top. Climate change are development issues that impact and challenge not only fundamental and the integral quality of lives, land security and economic security and prosperity. No advocation for the special case of Tuvalu as the climate change, especially climate-induced sea level rise. And active in its efforts to future-proof influence state practices and international law rise on statehood continuity and the permanency of to the resources therein, pursuant also taken bold and unilateral actions in this to ensure Tuvalu's statehood in perpetuity, permanent, no matter what happened to Tuvalu's land territory. Through the landmark Falipili Union Treaty between Australia to recognize Tuvalu's sovereignty in perpetuity. Tuvalu fully supports the effort of the UN General Assembly sea level rise as a standalone historical high-level meeting last year in 2024. Tuvalu welcomed the decision of the UNGA high-level meeting on sea level rise 81st session in September 2026, a UN declaration on sea level rise. The journey on sea level rise next year must be a turning point, so that islands, nations like mine are not left of irreversible loss and damage. Declaration on sea level rise, Tuvalu strongly advocates first, the affirmation of statehood continuity, climate crisis as a principle of international organized and dignified pathways for human mobility, and heritage of affected communities. Fourthly, adaptation journeys of the most vulnerable, and to inform strategic planning, enhance resilience. Tuvalu welcomes the recent advisory opinion Tribunal on the Law of the Sea Convention, IDLOS, regarding the IDLOS 24, the first ever advisory opinion on far-reaching obligations of major polluters to mitigate harm and to pay loss and damage for breach of delivered in July this year validates that climate an accidental threat to human life and natural opine that states have a duty to prevent significant with due diligence and use all means at their disposal or under their control from causing significant harm. Also affirm the principle of statehood continuity, newly demarcated maritime boundaries despite the impact of climate. The advisory opinions are significant milestones equal to legally binding obligation. Despite the announcement on climate change and sea level rise, Tuvalu continues of an international treaty on sea level rise that of affected states and peoples and to reaffirm the principle and the permanency of maritime boundary. The urgency to address the existential threat of climate change and overshadowed by the ongoing geopolitical competition between conflict around the globe. Mr. President, for the UN Summit on Sea Level Rise next year, Tuvalu continues under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Tuvalu has presented its first biennial CCC, which is a testament to Tuvalu's commitment and climate actions. During this week, nationally determined contribution, which is Tuvalu's blueprint to resilience, development, cultural preservation, and a just transition. Fight for the 1.5 degree centigrade carbon dioxide reductions alone. We must near-term warming to buy time for deeper carbonization of the world from irreversible tipping points like the ocean. Tuvalu has also updated its national adaptation framework to protect people, ecosystem, change, setting clear adaptation pathways, health and disaster risk preservation. Tuvalu also supports for a just phase-out of the use of fossil fuel crisis. To join this initiative and to act decisively, Mr. President, Tuvalu has 26 square kilometers of 1,000 square kilometers of exclusive economic zone. As such, the ocean is the lifeblood of our economy. The ocean is our very source of existence. As its commitment to conserve and sustainably use the ocean in the process of developing its first ever implementation of our commitments under SDG 14, but to ocean healthy. Mr. President, to the requisite 60 ratification threshold to bring it in the global community in Nice, France, for the third joined the Ocean Rise and Coastal Resilience planning and implementing the transformation required to reminded us that the fate of our ocean cannot be separated . The commitment made through strengthened partnership and predictable financing and sustainably use the ocean on their own term. The Pacific Island leaders this year endorsed the Pacific aims to elevate the peace dimension of regional security and resilience. Tuvalu is also proud to announce a pioneers coalition with France and Panama, and that Tuvalu more an inclusive group to advance ocean climate action for the inability of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Internationally Legally Binding Instrument on Plastic Pollution. Therefore urges the leaders and the UN system to continue the work of such a treaty. Mr. President, the watchword. It is a powerful affirmation of naturalism. The Antigua and Barbuda Agenda and the Pact for the Future are key development with SDG 17. Genuine and it is a principle that continues to show consistent challenges that SIDS and LDCs like Tuvalu achieved for such a genuine and enduring partnership. Those at the lower end of the global economic scale. Decadal Guide for Financial Cooperation, dubbed the for a truly transformative financing framework. Previously agreed climate financing language from the document. Call for urgent, scaled-up adaptation finance and the Loss and Damage Fund, including through the innovative use, steadfast in its call for increased grants and constraints and development funds, technology transfer and capacity circumstances of small island developing must reconsider eligibility criteria that prevent simply because of income classifications that do not reflect justice in global finance means recognized by GDP alone. It means large or small to chart a secure. It's not charity. It is a matter of justice and survival. Seal facility, which is a Pacific-led and Pacific needs of Pacific Island countries in the face of climate change, especially the developed countries and partner organizations. Mr. President, non-communicable morbidity and mortality in the Pacific region and poor diet and obesity intrinsically linked to the are key contributors to these escalating public health demonstrated through the recent adoption of the political diseases and the promotion of mental health and well-being. Actions reflect a spirit of collective response required by countries most affected by NCDs. Tuvalu is fully committed to upholding the commitments outlined in the pursuit of achieving the global targets by 2030. Earlier this week, we commemorated the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Plan of Action. Its right. Tuvalu reaffirms its commitment to gender equality steps towards that objective. Now prohibits discrimination based on sex and last year in 2024, Tuvalu adopted policy to assure women's empowerment and protection from across all sectors. Human rights, but are also peace and resilience. ensuring that women are not but are leading in decision-making space to global negotiation. There's high importance on the role of just, sustainable, and inclusive. Also marked yesterday the of Action for Youth, with a score our support missions that allow our young as active agents and as partners in achieving. Tuvalu recognized that inclusive without the full and equal participation. Mr. President, and leaving no one behind, Tuvalu deeply regrets the Republic of China, Taiwan, as a long of Tuvalu, Taiwan has demonstrated its commitment to making meaningful contribution to the development sector. That the UNGA resolution does not preclude participation in the UN system for the admission of Taiwan and its specialized agency. To observe that the people of the economic burden, economic sanctions, which the development assistance and partnership and rebuilding efforts. Sanctions which isolate and run counter to the spirit. Tuvalu supports the and join other member states from the list of states next week. 47th independence. Though the birth of Tuvalu and the United States, Tuvalu remains great a member of the United Nations, with the UN family of nations of advancing the vision of these 60 years and more for peace, development. To express my special thanks to the nation and its member state is traditional and emerging and assistance afforded to Tuvalu. Then in closing, during this historic, we should do so and formidable challenges in our community. Yet history is insurmountable. In solidarity and in unity, we call upon all members to move forward in unity and common mission. Let us remain steadfast in our charter, which continue to inspire and give meaning. While progress may not have come as swift as we did, when it is achieved, or indeed when we stand in purpose and in resolve, we not only achieve and just outcome. I thank you, and as we say in Tuvalu, for God. Thank you.
On behalf of this Minister of Tuvalu. Now hear an address of His Excellency Aisake, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Tonga. I request for His Excellency and invite him to address.
Tapu moe o tua mafi o ko whio i o tauloto tonga. Of state and heads of government. Antonio Guterres, Secretary, Excellency Ms. Anenta Baerbock, United Nations General Assembly, distinguished Mr. President, allow me the warm Malolele greetings from His Majesty of the Kingdom of Tonga. It is at its 80th session. Your Excellency, of the 80th session in General Assembly. President on our election, and we pledge leadership. I thank your predecessor, Mon Yang, for his able durations of his mandate. To pay tribute to the Secretary, Excellency Antonio Guterres, nation for his steadfast the purposes and principles of nations and the roles he President. Under the theme 80th years and beyond, and human rights. Tonga pledges its full support these themes. The pursuit of peace cannot be realized with action on climate change and the resilience of vulnerable time when climate change is a security threat. Active visions of the United Nations solidarity, ability, can we safely uphold the dignity of all peoples for future, for generations. As I stand before you in of the United Nations, the Tonga will soon celebrate the anniversary of our Constitution 2025. It's a profound reminder of the enduring in 1875 by our Constitution, justice, the protections of land, as we mark anniversary, we celebrate, but also a living legacy and inspiration. Mr. President, its steadfast commitment of the United Nations, San Francisco 80 years ago, continues to guide security, human rights, visions endure as a beacon, reminding us that the not only be addressed through unity and respect for international law. Tonga welcomes the UN as an opportunity to ensure for purpose in addressing to the Pacific undertakes its own review under the 25th for the Blue Pacific continent. Reform is not abstract. Fairness and efficiency is to deliver for our people through us and in the lives have endorsed. This means integrated platforms within the Pacific during financing flows respond to priorities, safeguard easing reporting, increasing Pacific representation system and decision making. Can we try solutions ensure that our and guarantee the benefits from effective multilateral delivery. Tonga welcomes with its annexes and declarations of future generations to strengthen multilateral crisis. Now, responsibility, however small or remote, it focuses on climate financing and international speaks directly to Tonga's barriers on the forefronts of climate framework to accelerate a financing gap and safeguard to come. Inclusive governance will shape the decision that the future. Mr. President, Tonga concludes its chairmanship of the 53rd meeting. The Kingdom was privileged to host Secretary on our shores. His attendance is a special guest between the Pacific and United Nations, and further strengthen our organization. Tonga tenure as a chair was practically our representations here at the United Nations as chair within the Pacific family, guiding corrective. It enables us to play a pivot role in reinforcing ensuring that both small and large islands in the negotiation with global partners. It also amplifies international diplomacy by carrying the mandate and above all, it left us with a legacy advocacy on issues central to our people's survival. Our small island states, one of the most pressing issues remain. This is not a remote threat, but unfolding reality that imperils the very existence of our island. We therefore from the national community, action but differentiated responsibility. It is host COP31 in partnership with the Pacific. Opportunity to bring the voices of small island developing states, ensuring that the realities of our peoples are not only COP 31 in our regions would simply find a call for solution that safeguards the most the landmark advisory opinion of a historic decision affirming that climate change is not only to international law, human rights, and the survival. This opinion is more than a legal milestone. It is a moral vulnerable, strengthens our call for urgent actions to loss and damage finance, and reinforce our shared duty protections for present and future generations. A special case for sustainable development, the use of the house to international financial standard and recognize. Mr. President, Tonga welcomes the compulsory for development earlier this year. For those, it calls for more inclusive, fair and transparent global of countries most at risk, including smaller islands. Directly to Tonga's priorities, mobilizing equitable financing and sustainable development, addressing that sustainability, size, geography, or vulnerability. We see this as a opportunity and reaffirms our goal for development finance that Mr. President, Tonga joined the international in Nice, France, under the theme Accelerating Sustainably Use the Oceans, where we underscore the central countries that rely on the ocean for food security, trade, stronger financing for marine conservation, resilience across our islands, while reaffirming our commitment to the at home. Tonga has taken concrete steps framework to conserve biodiversity, manage the benefit of our people and the future generations. In the Pacific family and the adoptions of the Pacific continent as an ocean of peace. This is more security and sustainability are deeply in how we protect our environment and how we safeguard our communities. For principle to be embedded in our international ocean governance. The ocean must not only be protected, it must be honored. Life, our legacy of resilience. Mr. President, to host the Pacific Resilience Facility, the Pacific mechanism dedicated to strengthening climate and disaster. Tonga acknowledges with gratitude the commitments of friends of the Pacific, and we continue to urge global partners to bridge the financing gap for small, high-impact resilient in the Pacific, but also demonstrate how regionally development agenda. Mr. President, especially those who are susceptible to harm, youth, recognizing them as the foundations of our public health and addressing the dual threats posed by the time we acknowledge the complex challenges of migrations, diaspora to national development. We also view economic harnessing trade and sport as a drivers of growth. Priorities embody behind. And lastly, may I remind this: let us first ask God for guidance in our share development and in safeguarding the dignity and human rights of all people are greater than any one nation. In closing, Hoktofia, which translates that God and Tonga are my inheritance, to serve with humility and dedication. I remember we can rise to above and beyond and a spirit of service, the humility, and thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of. I now give the floor to His Excellency Tuelukunuku Onesemo, Deputy Prime Minister.
Samoa e tātou tofi, tāpua I mai amal manuia. Samoa e tātou tofi, tāpua I mai amal manuia. Samoa e tātou tofi, tāpua I mai amal manuia. Samoa e tātou tofi, tāpua I mai amal manuia. Samoa e tātou tofi,